Well, it can happen, and the thing is, it happens slowly over time. And one of the things that I found interesting is since we've announced that we're going to do this, some of the things that some people have said is they want this causality as to why why it happened, why you gained the weight, and it's like, oh, did you cause metabolic damage because you did something so fast, so quick, And I'm like, this happened over years, and it was just time and age and circumstance, and it'll happen. It happens to anybody, and it's not like it wasn't one thing. Just like one thing's not going to get you back in shape. It wasn't one thing that evolved to this, but people need to understand it's not always this one thing causality. Just like there's not a one thing answer, right?
Right. Well, some people are watching our video online, pirated, I would say. That's another topic. Don't steal it, but. People have pirated it like 7 million times. It's like at this point, it's like whatever. I give up. But they think that the movie was made like last year,
right?
And it's here I am, I'm this big, and that's why they think, oh, metabolic change. It's like no, it's 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And here's the other interesting part about this documentary that's going to be. There's several different things that are going to be different. Number one, why in the heck am I starting it in October?
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, what do you think the challenges are going to be starting it in October, and why is it a dumb idea to start it in October?
Yeah, I mean the challenges are, I think, if you think of the calendar, the big elephant in the room is the holidays, coming up. Obviously, Halloween, you got cool candy and stuff like that, but then you got Thanksgiving and Christmas parties and all. I mean, this is the height, coming into the height of eating season, and party season and all that. So in that sense, dumb, I wouldn't say dumb. I mean, extra challenging, yes, but then you're building, but otherwise you're just not building in that excuse. And it all boils down to what somebody wants. It's the end of the day. If you prioritize it enough, whether you're doing this over Christmas or whether you're doing it in August, it just, anything boils down to priorities. I think so.
Yeah. Well, I think accidentally we started this in October, and it's like I came to your gym, and I said,
here.
Right here, and I said, let's do this documentary, not really even thinking that it was October, or thinking ahead what I'm looking at, and after we agreed on it and we started making the announcement, I'm like, oh crap.
Holidays.
The holidays, but
that
makes it a better documentary.
It does, and it's real, and it's something that people struggle with. So again, how do we work it? What happens if you're not 100%? Is there still progress? And I think one of the things everyone will learn, and what we'll watch with you, is what we really are concerned with is the trend over time, both the trend of your execution and the trend of your progress. And what you'll find is when you string great days together and build great momentum, hiccups here and there don't stop that overall trend, because we're never going to be perfect. None of us are, but we can be excellent.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Well, bringing everybody to speed, I'm at today's Sunday. Today's Sunday, so it'll be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm in my 7th day. Well, why don't I look any different? That's a big issue.
Yeah, for sure.
What else? I have been on the scale, and I've lost 4 pounds already. So what are those 4 pounds that I lost? Did I lose fat?
No. And the thing is, what's interesting is, and this is why I always, I tell people don't look at the scale really at all, ever. Or at least just for markers every several months maybe. Because fluctuations of 3 to 5 pounds can happen in a day, kind of no matter what, depending on when you eaten, when you drank, something like that. So really, we don't really care so much about that unless we're looking at the trend over a long period of time. And when you bring up a good point, though, but what we always say, and this is why it's really hard at first, because you're going to be working really hard and really not seeing anything for weeks. And I always tell people, go into it with the idea that the first 6 to 8 weeks is all about establishing a start point. Like I came up with your nutrition plan, which our all access members can see and download. That is, we have to create that starting point. And it only works no matter who we're starting with and what level of fitness they're at. We still have to create that starting point. And that takes 6 or 8 weeks on that caloric level, on that eating regimen, to establish that. And over those times, you're working, you're changing habits, you're cutting out foods and things that you're used to having. It's a big change, but yet you're not necessarily seeing much, and that's the challenge. Mm-hmm. And that's when people want to dive off, and that's when people want to try a different plan or try a different workout or try this. And that's why I always encourage, you got to stay the course and work for the long term, with the long-term vision of about 6 months to really change your body. Anybody starting this wants to go into it with the idea that this is going to be a 6-month investment to see a significant change.
Okay, so why does it take 6 to 8 weeks to to get your body going? Why, I mean, you would think that people starting out would be, because I've heard it all the time, you know, people after January 1st, oh, I'm on this new diet and I've already lost 4 pounds.
Yeah. Well, the problem is when you put a premium on weight loss, it's not telling you the whole picture. And like I said, we could do certain things to try to get a more dramatic weight loss, but the problem is that's not ultimately changing your metabolism. The way we change your metabolism will be to build muscle, to ultimately lose fat, which will create a trend of weight loss over time. But it's very different to go into something not thinking I want to lose weight. It's very different to go into it with the mindset I want to change my body composition. So I just harp on that with anybody I work with. It's very different up here going into it that way. That's why you get rid of the scale. You look at how your pants fit you. You look at how your strength is going. You take some pictures to start with. You take some pictures every few weeks. And the reason it takes 6 or 8 weeks to get started is because when I do a starting plan for you or anybody else, it's an educated guess based on some parameters that I gather. I don't magically know you need to be at X calories. I've done it enough that I know of a range that makes sense. But even still, you have to eat that way for a period of weeks to establish, so I can then see, or anybody can see, okay, is the trend going in the right direction? If it's not, then we started a little bit too high. And then we adjust kind of from there. But you have to kind of go through that, because before this, and like many people, you're eating all over the board. One day you might have 4,000 calories, one day might be 1,000 calories. The ratios are not good.
I'll admit, yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, and that's most people. So therefore, we can't just expect to say, okay, we're going to start at 2,600 calories, and then bam, that's going to be magic, and you're going to look great in a few weeks. No, we have to start at whatever level we determine based off some parameters, and then we have to follow that out and then gauge it from there. But that's true of anybody, and that's what we got to do. But again, I think the biggest thing is anybody out there, and the biggest thing with you going into it with the mindset like you did before, we want to change body composition, not lose weight. It's very different going into it with that mindset.
Now, I kind of look at, when you were talking, it kind of reminds me of, because I'm a bit of a science nut. Let's just talk about an explosion. Some types of explosives, they need an initiator. If you can take like C4, let's put it that way, and just bang it on a table and mold it and hit it with a hammer, nothing happens until you put an initiator in it. So I'm kind of thinking that that's what our body is like, where
similar.
It's like it takes a long time for your body to say, okay, this is the new trend. I'm going to adjust to it, and I'm saying the new trend is being crazy. But the new trend is that you have to warm up the body, and
a lot of things are like that. No, a lot of things are like that. Even like boiling water, it takes a long time to get it to boil, but then once you do get it to boil, it takes less energy to keep it boiling, right?
Perfect. Okay, forget about the C4. Well, I have no idea what.
A lot of things in life are like that. Even business or cash flow in a business model. I mean, sometimes it takes a lot to get something going, and then once it's going well, it takes less energy, and you're absolutely right. So in our case, to get the water to boil, so to speak, it's building muscle is a big part of that. So these plans that do not take that into account, you're setting yourself up for not the greatest result over the long haul.
Okay, so we're in other words, we're packing in a lot of potential energy, and then suddenly it's released.
Yeah.
Now you're talking about it. And then we have this momentum that keeps everything going. Now you were talking about diet being all over the place. So how do you pack on 220 pounds from where I was before? Well, I will tell you this, is that I ate all over the board, like you were saying. There were some days I would have like a lunch that may have been 5,000 calories. There would be some dinners that would be like, oh, I'll tell you what, one of my favorite dinners is chicken fingers, at just about any restaurant, and dip them in the best.
Good stuff.
Oh my gosh, it's very, very good. I shouldn't even be thinking about that right now.
Want to take a break and go get some? No, I was kidding. None of that.
But yeah, so Lord knows how many calories are in there, and then it's the alcohol, the beer. Michigan is now the beer capital of the world as far as microbreweries goes, and so I got a taste for beer, and I live in a community that is in wine country, so now I have a taste for wine, and so are there any calories in beer and wine?
A lot in
that
both.
you have to worry about?
Yeah, a lot in both. So unfortunately, but what you'll find is, and what we'll illustrate is, once you do it right, and once you change your body composition, and you have more muscle, and you've lost that fat, and your metabolism going, then it's easier to maintain. Then you can have some beer. Then you can do some of that, and it doesn't keep compounding what's happened here. The problem is right now you're way in reverse, and everything's slow and sluggish, and it just wants to, the momentum's the other way, right?
Right.
But now once we change it though, it's much, much easier to maintain while having, so it doesn't mean for the rest of your life you have to live this way of not having anything, no, but to create that initial change, you gotta go, you gotta go through some pain, people.
Yeah.
I mean, to make a significant loss, but then you don't have to always do that.
Right.
See what I mean? So then you'll be able to enjoy the wine, the beer on moderate levels and be okay, as long as you stay exercising and keep some of these principles intact.
Right. Well, and I was gonna add to that too, is that when I was, for the last year, I've been running. I got plantar 2 years ago. I started getting plantar fasciitis on the bottom of my foot, and I wasn't able to run, and the gyms that were in our area were just packed all the time. Your gym is the only gym where it could be packed, but I can get on what I need to be on right away because you have more of what people
We're just cool like that.
get. You have more squat machines, squat racks than any of the biggest gyms I've worked out in. So let me back up a little bit. So the plantar fasciitis that stopped that. So I go to the gym, but then the plantar fasciitis is over with now. So I'm back up to running about 6 miles a day to 4 miles to 3 miles, just in that range, and the fat hasn't changed.
Right.
It hasn't changed at all. And the weird thing is that I'll get up in the morning and I'll have my cereal, or I'll have at our cafeteria, I'll have a croissant, egg and bacon sandwich, and that's really about it. Or I'll have yogurt and fresh fruit. But then at noon, that's my next meal, and I'll eat whatever, maybe a Subway sandwich or a Jimmy John's or something like that. And then by nighttime, when I get out of work, the first thing I would do is I'd go out and I'd run 6 miles, and I'm like, oh, this is great. I did great stuff for my body, and I'm going to lose all this weight and fat. And this has been going on now for a year, and it hasn't changed, because when I'm done running, the last thing on earth I feel like doing is just sitting down and having a big meal. So my dinner has been like almost nothing.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, I'm doing good because I'm not eating all these calories for dinner, but that's also creating a bad problem because my body might be thinking that it's starving. Is that
Well,
it?
what's happened is it's a perfect example of what you set yourself up for as muscle wasting. From all the running, not so much resistance training, disproportionate nutrient intake, wrong timing. So then doing that long run becomes catabolic, and then nothing to replenish and repair afterwards. So what you've done unwillingly is by design you're losing muscle. So everything's working exactly as it's designed to do by you, not intentionally designed that way.
Right.
But that's what's happening.
Well, I intentionally did that.
You intentionally wanted to lose muscle?
Yeah, I'll tell you. Well, this is the I'm not being around Jeff that much, but I used to be a cross country runner, and I wanted to get to that cross country runner kind of body again, because my feet have been killing me. The fasciitis has been, I just, and my ankles hurt. When I get up in the morning and I have to really stretch my feet just to make sure that everything is all working. Before I can even take my first step of the day, I have to get that all done. And that's why I was thinking, if I lose a lot of this muscle up here and go running, and I know that would create muscle wasting.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
thinking.
I was thinking that the fat would go, but you see all these cross country, these marathoners, like, oh yeah, I'm running marathons, and they're tiny people. And I wanted to get to be a tiny person,
Right.
and it just isn't happening.
No, I understand, and I understand why people think like that, but it's just flawed thinking. It doesn't jive with physiology. But I understand why you thought that, but it was flawed thinking, as you can see. But it's not. But I understand why people think that. But if you don't do it, if you don't target it the right way, if you don't focus on, you were looking more at the result and not not focusing more on the process. If you focus on the process, the result will take care of itself. And the process needs to be started and rooted in muscle building for everybody, man, woman, young, old. That's the igniter.
Right.
And so by going that way, the long-term outlook is never going to be great, because when you waste muscle, you goof up your metabolism.
Okay, so now we're getting into the territory that I was kind of in, is that I wanted to, when I was living in Saginaw, I really was thinking I could do a triathlon, and I did a mini triathlon, and those guys are fit.
Right.
They are super fit. So what, are they muscle wasting because they're...
Here's the issue. We don't know, if someone's been fit for years and exercised for years, then that's a different element, different animal. One of the problems now in the current society is, and there's this big push on all this functional stuff, and I won't say the brand name of that one type of training, but there's these different exercises done for time and done for, different, flipping tires and sledgehammers or whatever they do. Not that there's anything wrong with that, and not that it is an activity, but you've got to be very clear on what your goal is. And if your goal is a body composition change, which is what yours always, everything you told me really was a body composition. No matter how you wanted to word it, it was really a body composition change.
Exactly. So it's like I wanted to lose this.
Right. So the problem is, that's what most people want. But if they're trying these other methods, and let's say they're coming at it not, already not in an ideal shape, or they're not where they want to be. If you're already pretty fit and you're doing these other stuff, you're remaining active, you're burning calories, you're going to stay pretty fit no matter what you really do, as long as you're still doing something. But to get to that fit point first, if you're not already in pretty good shape and you're coming at it and you're doing these other athletic type of trainings, things that are working on more agility, it's not the best way to target body composition, so that's the problem. So when I see people who are, at any age, but especially a little bit older, and they have a bigger waistline, and they're training more like an athlete, and they're doing, they're flipping tires, and they're beating stuff with sledgehammers, and doing battle ropes, and flipping kettlebells, and all that. Again, not to discount the role that could play, but it depends on your goal. And if your primary goal is body composition change, that's not the best way to go about it. Now, if your goal is to be more agile and develop there's different aspects of being fit, depending on your definition. That's different, sure. If you want to incorporate that at some point, but I wouldn't, right now, your issue is body composition. And anybody out there, if that's your primary issue, it's real simple. Weight training, short duration cardio, nutrition. That's it.
So once we get to this body composition change, then we're looking at running will be easier.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. And then the game changes. And then when you're at the point where you want to be at, then if you say, hey, I want to improve this, or I want to be more athletic, or I want to be able to do, X amount of, hang cleans in 30 seconds, so then you can work on those things. But to get to that point first of being fit, I think this is really where it's at.
So you would be okay with a marathon if I Not saying that if I were to train now for a marathon,
Right,
that would be the worst
bad.
thing.
Correct.
So, but if I, at the end of 6 months, and I've changed my body composition again after 7 years of just all yo-yoing all over the place,
Right.
starting at that point to do a marathon would be, but still lifting weights,
Sure,
right?
sure,
Still
absolutely.
doing the whole thing. But,
Yeah.
But instead of the 16 minutes of cardio, it's like I may have to go out and do a 12-mile run.
Right, because the goals
Okay.
changed. Because right now, and again, the people enjoy. I'm not advocating don't do things you enjoy, and some people really enjoy those other types of training, and they have fun doing it.
This is what people need to hear,
Yeah.
Jeff. I'm telling you, because they think, oh, I'm just going to be this big muscle guy. Okay, continue what you're saying, because this is actually very exciting.
No, I was just saying that